Hey, what are you?
I am Iron Hands.
Yeah, but what are you?
I do not understand your question, primitive being.
Primitive? Excuse me, all of my friends are like me.
And all of my friends are like me.
Weak?
Ha, ha, ha. I will punch you in the face.
Ladies, gentlemen, and masters of all ages, Pokemon Scarlet and Violet have been out for a few days now, and what wonderful, wonderful, sometimes broken games that they are. One of the hallmark features of this new generation of Pokemon are the Paradox Pokemon, and you know them well. I mean, you've technically been with one of them for your entire journey, as your Mount Legendary itself is in fact a Paradox Pokemon. Today we're going to be talking about the Paradox Pokemon, but specifically the strong ones, the 5 strongest ones around that you can capture in each version of the game. Because in case you didn't know, you can actually catch both versions exclusives simply by being with a player who has the other version also being in Area 0 right around you. I'm in Violet, and I have plenty of Scarlet Paradoxes. In any case, of course they exist, and there are plenty that you probably want just purely for aesthetic reasons if nothing else. But when it comes to their actual power in battle, how good can they get? This list will be based off of a few factors. Their base stat totals are all the same at 570, so one doesn't just have straight up more overall stats than the others, but the distribution of these stats is a massive consideration, of course, that changes things up quite a bit. Then there is also, of course, their typings as Pokemon, and the matchups that these will create, and of course how well they can work within a team. Of course, as I mentioned, the Legendaries are technically Paradox Pokemon as well, however they are also just undoubtedly the strongest to no one's surprise, so we won't be including them on this list. Just know that they are incredible, and you probably want to use them if you care about strength. Without further ado then, let's begin with number 5. Flutter Mane. This one is just a nuke in a tiny package. Incredibly high special attack, really high special defense, and very good speed, allowing it to go first in combat much more often than not. As well as it is a ghost and fairy type, which is a great mix of type coverages that also gives it a lot of resistances and allows it to learn lots of different attacks with varying uses. The only real weakness of this Pokemon is physical attacks being used against it, as it has pretty low health and defense, so it's a touch niche as you really want to avoid using this thing against a proper physical attacker, but if you can do so and keep it in the special attack zone, it will absolutely shine, decimating anything in its path. On top of that, an interesting note that on the competitive side of Pokemon, this one has actually been full-on banned from the regular pool of single matchups, so even regardless of what I have to say, this one has been officially recognized as a really good Pokemon by actual pros. Number 4.
I found a mushroom.
Brute Bonnet. This one is just solid all around. Grass Dark is a really good combo, though of course there are a few other new Pokemon within this game with this exact typing, so if you are comparing it to overall Pokemon, it might not hold up quite as well for that reason, but in terms of comparison to other Paradox Pokemon, it does extremely well. It functions as an incredibly strong all-around tank with really high defense and special defense as well as really good HP, while also having reasonably high attack too, so it can pack quite a punch while living for ages. The only real downside to this Pokemon is its speed, which is quite low. You won't go first against most things, but there are ways around this, such as the Sucker Punch attack that it can learn, which makes you go first in the turn order regardless, or even the Trick Room ability, which flips speed priorities for a turn order. It can't use it itself, but you can use Trick Room on a different Pokemon, switch out, and then go first on Brute Bonnet anyways. As well, you have attacks like Giga Drain for some decent regen to go with your big tanky stats, and you can even do things like Spore or Stun Spore to inflict some status goodness as well. Number 3.
I'm just him with tusks.
Great Tusk. Now we're getting into the properly really strong ones. The first two are good, don't get me wrong, but they definitely have more of a niche. But this one and the two after it are just really genuinely good Pokemon. Great Tusk then is a ground and fighting type, which is a strong combo, giving it access to a number of really strong physical moves, which of course is important as it has a particularly high attack stat, making it hit like a truck in the right conditions. As well, it has really high HP and physical defense, so if you stick this in a matchup with something hitting you with physical moves, you will stand up like an absolute tank while still being able to launch off super high damage ground and fighting moves yourself. The main thing this Pokemon lacks is special defense, but with an HP pool that high, that still isn't an outright weakness as this compensates significantly. Other than that, if you use it against the flying type, you're not going to have a good time, for obvious reasons. Ground doesn't do anything to flying, and also flying double affects fighting, so it's just not the time to use it. Any other type, you'll have a pretty good time anyways. On top of that, your speed is a bit lower than where you'd like it to be, but it's not bottom tier either. If you get a great Tusk with a nature like Jolly, which raises your speed and lowers special attack, which you don't really care about with this Pokemon anyways, you can really make it even stronger. Number 2.
The moon.
Roaring Moon. This one is on a lot of people's radar, a dragon and dark type mix that just looks absolutely gorgeous and is quite strong too. It's reasonably tanky with a decent HP pool and special defense stat, and a middling physical defense stat. Not quite terrible, which lets it actually survive a lot of different kinds of damage, a bit more than some other Paradox Pokemon can. But this one's real strength lays in its attack and its speed. It has really high attack and is really fast, which lets you get a good amount of stuff done before you've even taken a hit yourself. Because of its type combos too, you can run it with pretty much 4 different type moves to give you even more coverage against different Pokemon while still being relatively effective. And its main real weakness is that it is 4 times weak to fairy moves. But in this game we have terastallizing, and you can just manually change the type of terastallizing that you do, so doing a Steel Terra on Roaring Moon fixes that entirely. Number 1.
I can't feel my hands. Do you feel my hands? No.
Iron Hands. You could easily make arguments that any of these top 3 are sort of interchangeable. They are all incredible, so don't be yelling at me in the comments that Roaring Moon is stronger than Iron Hands because, well, yeah, in some situations it will be. In some situations it won't be. To a degree, that's just sort of one of the fundamental mechanics of Pokemon as a whole. However, the absolute potential that Iron Hands has is just sort of insane. It has the highest attack stat of any of the Paradox Pokemon. It has an insanely high HP pool as well as the highest attack, as well as really good physical defense to make it extremely tanky. Its special defense isn't great really, but it also isn't quite bottom tier either. So on top of the HP that it has, it is even tanky against specials. And of course, its main weakness is its speed, where it is pretty much just bottom of the barrel. However, as I mentioned earlier, Trick Room is an attack that exists, and with it, that changes things up too. Even without it though, you are tanky enough that going second isn't really catastrophic, and also Iron Hands is an electric and fighting type mix. When it does something like close combat to something, it will just shred it to bits. It is genuinely so strong. And while as someone with Pokemon Violet, I am a bit disappointed that this is the only one of the Violet Paradox Pokemon within the top 5, I'm quite happy that it is both one that I think looks really cool and is just this nasty good, this strong. That covers the 5 best Paradox Pokemon and why I believe they are that. It's also important to note that the Paradox Pokemon in general function heavily around just activating their abilities, either with an energy booster or by just creating the terrain that boosts them, and when you do it, it does a lot of good for you. And of course, while there are 9 Paradox Pokemon that didn't quite make the cut for this list, it's worth mentioning that none of them are just straight up bad Pokemon. Every single one is strong in one way or another, but these are the 5 whose strengths are more universal and more significant, whereas the other 9 will definitely have to fit up more of a specific niche more than anything. Alright everyone, I hope you've enjoyed this list. If you want to discuss why you think other paradoxes may be worth considering as well, of course do so in the comments down below. My opinion isn't the be-all end-all, but I do fully believe in what I've told you today and its accuracy. Like if you like the video, subscribe and hit the notification bell for more, and most importantly, ladies and gentlemen, until next time, stay sweet.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.